Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another of my amazing interviews with amazing people from around the world. Today, I have the absolutely incredible, knowledgeable wisdom keeper that is Maria Wheatley. Hello, Maria. How are you today?
I'm absolutely great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, brilliant. Lovely to see you, Maria. And you'll be joining us for the celebration in August, which I'm really looking forward to. I went to your event in September last year, I believe, or was it late August?
Yeah,
Uh,
it was September.
Yeah, Mysterious Universe, which I actually thought was a fantastic event, and your curation of that event was superb. You had some great speakers. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you're up to at the moment?
Well, what I'm up to at the moment is I'm going constantly around ancient sites worldwide, which is my love and my passion to teach about earth energies and Gaia and how we can expand our consciousness with stone circles energies. Also, I'm really excited because I've got my latest book coming out, The Secret History of Stonehenge, which is about many more ancient sites as well, and my latest discoveries with earth energies, which is the like Kepler discovered the music of the spheres, and I discovered the music of Gaia. So it's not just about thinking about earth energies as electromagnetic, it's thinking about them as sound and sound frequencies. And I've got a mathematician that worked for me that said this is 99.9% correct. So it's a new aspect of Gaia that nobody else has really explored in terms of particular energy patterns. So I'm really excited. I've got a book coming out. I'm going to Gaia Sphere in August, and I've got my own event, Mysterious Universe, on September the 16th. So it's wonderful. And tomorrow, for example, I'm at Avebury as well, which is one of my local beautiful places where I live near, and I enjoy taking people around.
Amazing, Maria. So let me ask you, with Gaiosphere, how are you finding that? Are you interviewing people? Are they interviewing you? How's it working?
It's called Ancient Civilizations, and we've all contributed to their forthcoming event. And what Gaia asked us to do is contribute on ancient civilizations before the Great Flood. That's the theme of it. So I've done a lot of research on different elements of pre-flood civilizations, which I best save for Gaia. But it is very fascinating, and I've got a really new take on it, which is why I've been invited along to speak about that at their event in Boulder, Colorado.
Fantastic. I noticed for your Mysterious Universe event, you're going to Wells Cathedral. Is that right?
That's
Um,
right. We're going to Wells Cathedral with Tom Bree, who's one of the UK's top sacred geometrists.
and do you have any personal experience of the Octagon Room there? Do you know that that amazing room at the back? That huge, great. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Masons would design their cathedrals to an earth energy pattern below ground. For example, when we look to the Neolithic and Bronze Age peoples, they were focused on the circle, especially throughout the British Isles and Europe. So they were looking for circular energy patterns, and they placed the standing stones upon those circles. Whereas when the Templars came into being, and later the Masons, they were looking for a cross in the landscape. So if you imagine that you've got the crossing point of two lanes, which they sometimes used, or more importantly, they had the crossing point of two earth currents forming a cross. And it doesn't have to be straight. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be like that. You see what I mean? It doesn't have to run perfectly, but that's called the geocross. And they were looking for that, and they would align to that because that's the goddess in the landscape. If you imagine that I'm spread out, I've got my arms and my legs down, and my head would be the altar, and then you have an entire chakra system going up that particular energy axis line. And when you've got particular shaped parts of a cathedral, like an octagon or even a square and a circular part like the Templars had, that's normally done to a particular type of earth energy that imbues it. When you have shape, whether it's a pyramid, for example, or a dome shape, which all Neolithic long barrows and cairns, they were all dome-shaped, like the White House. That increases a particular frequency of earth energy to imbue the whole. So those shapes imbue the whole rather than earth energy just coming out several feet of the ground.
That's fascinating. So in terms of the circle, because obviously the word church comes from the word circle, that is the same thing. In terms of temple building, from very simple round temples that you could make yourself to these huge, great buildings, is there any particular energies that people would look to see underneath those? Is there any way that you can dowse to and some people do say you can move them. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's look to what our ancestors were doing, because they were the top geomancers. Is anyone as good as our ancient ancestors, the ancient Egyptians? I doubt it, myself included. But what the Neolithic were looking for in their huge stone temples and their smaller late Bronze Age ones as well, which could have just been about 30 feet across, they were looking for what's called the primary halo. And the primary halo is a concentric circular energy that is emitted by quite deep water or water under sustained pressure, like water in granite, for example. And if you imagine foam coming up from the ground like this, is perfect circular, concentric circular shapes. That's what they were looking for. And then they place standing stones on top of those circles. So that's what they were looking for. And basically they mapped them out across the world. Now, once you put a standing stone into natural earth energy, then that starts to absorb it through its crystal matrix structure, which I proved about 15, 20 years ago, and then it emits an energy frequency line. So what the standing stone is doing is converting the earth energy, circular energy, is coming up the stones, and then it's transmitting it in an aerial line, like Neolithic Wi-Fi. Literally no wires there. So that's what they were doing. Now, when it comes to moving earth energies, I'm a person that doesn't agree with that. And a lot of people would like to burn me at the stake again for that. Okay? Because when we move earth energies, we are moving Gaia's ecosystems. What do I mean by that? What I mean is this. Some animals really like earth energies, and it could be underground water, it could be different types of earth energies, and they follow those generation after generation. Some insects like water veins, for example. And if we start moving Gaia's energies, and she is a beautiful feminine planet, 4 billion years old. I'm sure she knows where to put her energies over someone that's just lived to my life span. And so if we start moving things, we move around all of these ecosystems. And does Gaia really want us to do that? That's the Western mindset. I want it my way. If I want to do something in my back garden, I'll do it my way. The Chinese, Hopi, Navajo, do you think they do that? No, they don't. They go to where the energies are. They don't have to have it in their back garden by moving all of these energies towards them. So I'm in the camp of the Navajo, the Hopi, the Aboriginal peoples, the Chinese geomants, and saying, let's work with Gaia and not dictate to her.
Yeah, that's a really important thing. You are working with her and not demanding of her and saying you will do this for me. That's absolutely that's really important point actually. So in terms of the earth energies and people using their consciousness and moving their ideas and setting intentions and things in the landscape, is it a case of people going out and dowsing and finding those places for themselves and letting Gaia reveal herself and reveal the secrets? Is that really the magic of dowsing and working with earth energies?
You need to be a dowser. If you know how to read the landscape by certain trees, like certain earth energies, then we can touch upon that in a moment. But first things first, I have a garden or a backyard, And if I decode it by saying, are there any male earth currents present, any female earth currents present, any underground water, what type of underground water? And for just to start with, I, for example, in my back garden have a female earth current. So I work with that energy. So I work with what I have where I live. I don't call in different types of earth energies. You can call the elementals in of those types of energies, like the undines for the element of water, the gnomes for the element of earth, for example. So I work with what I've been given, literally by Gaia. Now, if I go out into the countryside, I can dowse. Not everybody can dowse, or maybe wants to dowse. I can use my hands, but I can also look to nature, because nature likes particular types of earth energy. And there's one type of earth energy called the geospiral, which emits 7 hertz frequency. It puts your brain into alpha. It's calming, it's very soothing, it's healing. So what do we look for? We look for very old oak trees. We look for yew trees, for example. And there's a brilliant old saying in the medieval times of Great Britain: build your farmstead where the sheep doth lie. So if you see where sheep gather, that's going to be good earth energies. The animals know what's good for them still. We've kind of had a disconnect from that. So we can look to where you have suddenly lush grass growing a little bit higher than the surrounding grass, all indications of where there's good earth energies. Geospirals are also liked by horses, where horses lie down, and where you have wild garlic, ramsons, where you have the apple tree, where you have the hazel tree, or grown in the wild. I'm not talking about, being planted. All of that indicates that there's harmonic earth energy.
Absolutely fascinating. So let me ask you, Maria, when you're in a new land, when you're just, I don't know, when you get off a plane or you go and visit somebody, do you instinctively want to work with the energies there, or are you just being in the kind of, the human surroundings? Do you itch to get out and work and find out the secrets of the landscape?
The first thing that I do is I ask to be accepted in that land. And I ask the land if it wants to work with me. Again, it's a Western mindset to say, I go somewhere, oh, I'm going to work with the energies because they all need me. They all need me to clear the grids. They need me. But if we turn it around and ask Gaia what she wants, then you're working in harmony, like I said earlier, with this huge spiritual entity, and you will be accepted. And one way you can find out, how do I know if Gaia wants to accept me? There's a really easy way. Put your feet slightly apart on the ground and just ask Gaia, would you like me to work with you, or can I work with you? Think about how you want to say something, and then just relax, take a couple of deep breaths. And if Gaia accepts you in that land, you'll feel a slight pull forward, like a magnetic pull towards the earth. And that's your gateway to be embraced by our one mother, Gaia.
That's it's really fascinating, that, because that's it's a very beautiful way of getting acceptance and having that universal law of consent as well. So it's not about demanding, but actually offering up your services. Can I be in service to you today? How can I help you today? Is it okay if I work with you today? That type of thing. So we are so disconnected from the land, aren't we? And I have asked this of other guests in their own field, but have you seen any uptick in, it's a strange word, but uptick in interest in what you're doing, and is there more demand on your time and work? What's the general feeling from you in terms of the kind of healthiness of your subject?
Well, I've been in this for over 30 years. I really have. I've kind of got brought up with it all. So what I've seen over the past 30 years is a real loving embrace to want to work with Gaia. And so I find it's becoming more popular with spiritually orientated people to want to work hand in hand with Gaia. And by just using these tips I'm giving you, don't be expected that you are the only thing that's important to help Gaia. It's, for example, I have an Australian student who knows the elders of a particular community in Australia, quite close to Ayers Rock, and I wanted to be asked if I could have permission to remotely douse Ayers Rock, Uluru in Australia, and it was very, very interesting because I wouldn't just do that. Even remote dowsing, I wouldn't go to a country and do that. And the elders were in gratitude that I did ask, and they said, "No, what can you offer us?" And then in that humble moment of realizing, yeah, what can I offer the elders there? And this is what I feel with the Western mindset. We absent douse everywhere without thinking of the elders that are the guardians of the landscape there, whether that's Australia, in certain parts of ancient America, or elsewhere, even in Europe, like Sardinia, Corsica, and in parts of Italy. They do still have their guardians of the land there.
Absolutely. There is a story in South Africa where one of the elders there was very upset that somebody wrote a book, no names mentioned, about the landscape, and that he wasn't actually acknowledged in that book, and that he wasn't involved in the process of somebody from the West writing that book. And it kind of makes sense, doesn't it, that we kind of go in and take what we want and don't actually engage and ask for permission to do these things. So that's really, really fascinating. So you're doing a lot of work in Egypt. Have you been there this summer? Did you go to Egypt?
I went to Egypt in April and it was a wonderful trip. Each time I go to Egypt, Egypt teaches me something new. So she's a wonderful university, the ancient sites there, to offer us the wisdom and windows into a time that was and what we can do with the wonderful temple energies there. So yes, Egypt is a great teacher.
Yeah, fantastic. And you're going to carry on doing those trips and those tours?
Yes, we plan to go in April next year, and we have private access to the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, to lots of different parts in temple spaces there. And like I mentioned, there are certain earth energies in ancient Egypt that you don't find anywhere else. I mean, for your viewers, I inherited, through my late father, the unpublished surveys of master dowsers. Really, I mean, I've got some of Tom Lethbridge, I've got some Guy Underwood, and the thing about these legacies that I have, I was looking through them because I discovered something at Hathor's Temple a couple of years ago, and it was locked down, and so I finally get to go back, and it was this beautiful, almost like a kind of feminine earth energy system. I just happened to be going through a few papers and realized that a similar thing was found in the 1940s, and that there's a whole feminine earth energy system out there that I've literally just discovered that I'll be writing about in the future, and it is divine. And it hasn't been seen by the world yet. And it was one of those synchronicities where I found it at Hathor's Temple. Then I was looking at it in front of me, and I said to myself, Eli, I've had these papers for over 25 years. Why didn't I see this before? And then I realized it's because the divine feminine is really kind of expressing itself, as should the divine masculine as well. We need balance. You can't have one without the other. You can't have day without night. So it's always a lovely journey that Gaia is given, because it's about her timing, I think. And I'm just a little player in that for her understanding and to share that with people.
It's really interesting you mentioned the masculine and the feminine, because I remember when I came to your course with Dan Doherty and we walked down the avenue, and you were always giving us little absolute gems as we walk around, just little things that just like, wow, that's something that I just had no idea about. But you were talking about how one row is masculine and one row is feminine, and that they have those stones. Is that a thing about these temple spaces? Is it that the stones do have energies, and that they need to work together in those two principles? Is it common? I mean, is it right across the board? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you do, yes, to some regard, because you will always have the what's going on at the West Stone Avenue, which was the latter part of the Avery complex to be built, to be constructed. You have male energy going down the middle, and you have feminine energy each side. That's very beautiful. It's male and female. Then the shape of the stones is a diamond-shaped stone like this is considered feminine, and then a masculine stone is more phallic and block-like, if you will. And you have that worldwide. That is a constant. And also what you have, that's very commonly known, that you have, you know, male and female energies crossing, male and female stones. What isn't so well known is that if you have two vortexes or vortices, I always say both because I'm unsure of the grammar. If you have two vortexes quite close to one another, and by that I mean they could be some distance away, and one is masculine and one is feminine. And if you imagine that in Dowsing terms, they're like spirals, but with arms coming off them, like energy coming off like this. And what they do is they give birth to an energy line. So you've got the two vortexes and they give birth to an energy line, and it's male and female energy combined. It's a hermaphrodite line. And that's really very important because it doesn't have polarity. And so we don't just have masculine and feminine earth energies, we have hermaphrodite energy as well, and neutral energies besides. So it's not about one thing or the other. I think that the ancients were incorporating both. They were saying, work with your masculine, work with the feminine, now work with hermaphrodite. And so I think it was like a three or four phases of how to work with Gaia's energies.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you know, I was going to ask you whether there are certain actual stones, like geological makeup of stones, that do have masculine and feminine energies. Are there particular types of, say, semi-precious metals that are more feminine than masculine, or hermaphrodite even, or even neutral?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, throughout the ages, the ancients realized this. So, for example, they would classify certain things as male and female when it comes to minerals. For example, copper, or those kind of green colored stones, they're under, you know, the goddess Venus. Copper is, Cyprus gets its name from copper because that was a huge mine going back to the Neolithic and the Bronze Ages. So yes, certain energies have, certain stones rather have particular energies. So for example, in women, we tend to have more copper in our blood. So I douse with copper rods. Males have more iron in their blood, and that's why I think Hamish didn't do it. He was a blacksmith, and Hamish Miller is a very famous douser, the late Hamish Miller. He always doused with iron rods, and then I looked into blood, and it's because males have more iron. So I think we can relate to the masculine and the feminine, different types of minerals and stone, or the softer stones, for example, are deemed slightly more feminine, and the harder granites that you get in the roads of Brittany and Dartmoor, for example, they're considered more of a masculine landscape. But that's to some regard, because if you put them in a feminine earth energy, you can then kind of allow it to be enhanced with a different type of energy as well.
It's absolutely amazing. So let me ask you, because obviously you know the landscape of the Southwest intimately, I'd say. You know, is there anywhere that's your favorite places just to go? You know, if you have a day off or whatever, and you feel like going somewhere, what are your favorite places to go? And you know, why do you get drawn to those places? Because you've got, you know the landscape so well.
You know, you've got your massive sites like Avebury and Stonehenge, and massive sites draw massive crowds, for example. And so sometimes, I mean, I love these sites, don't get me wrong, they're in my blood, Avebury and Stonehenge, but where I go for a kind of relaxation is back into the womb of Gaia. And that's at Stony Littleton Long Barrow in Somerset. It has one of the longest access lines that you crawl along, or scoopy along, and then you enter the far chambers, and that's very quiet, and you literally are in darkness. I don't know why people need their mobile phone torches there. I would say leave that alone, go into the darkness, into the room of Gaia, and then spend some time there, then come back out into the light. It's like being reborn. But it took me 2 years to witness one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen at the winter solstice. And again, Stony Littleton shone bright because it's aligned to the midwinter sunrise. And it's about 30 minutes after the sunrise because you've got a hill in front of it that makes the sunrise slightly behind the actual hour, as it were. And then what you see is this beautiful golden light go down one side of the access line of the barrow, and then it shines bright in the far chamber. But curiously, like the outline of a human being or the sun god himself. So it's a wonderful thing, and you can push your hand into the light, the golden light that streams down. It's one of the wonders of the West Country. It really is.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, for you to discover something like that, was that something through your father, or was it just a day trip, or did you just stumble?
That was known by archaeoastronomers, but it took me 2 years to see it because of cloud in the UK. And then another, place that I really do love in the West Country are the Barrows of the Salisbury Plain, because nobody visits them. The tourists want, something to really look at, like the West Kennet Long Barrow, which is a reconstruction, incidentally, and it's not particularly the best reconstruction. And so if you go to the sites where people don't normally go, you have them to yourselves. You can lie on the long boughs of Salisbury Plain and you can listen. And it was in that listening silence when I led one February afternoon in the cold, and I was guided to go there, that I discovered the long-skulled people of that area. I just listened. And that's what I feel that's needed when you go to ancient sites. People like to go to an ancient site with an agenda. I'm going to get healing. I'm going to get this. That's wonderful, because the stones, even though they have been made ruinous in some parts, still give that to us. But if you listen, you might hear something from one of the ancestors or the guardian of the site that could be life-changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Your perspective is so much more with Gaia, and working for Gaia, and that really comes across in what you do and the way you express your relationship with the land. And it's something which I'm very aware of. That I'm much more, I'm going to do this.
Exactly, that's what people do. They say, I'm going to heal the grid lines for Gaia. Gaia's been for 4 billion years. They can self-heal. Heal yourself and bring yourself into balance. Then, add to the energy system. But Gaia can self-regulate. She really, really can. Earth energies can self-regulate because of the colors that they emit. They emit earth colors that are changing frequencies all of the time, actually, because we see earth energies as being like 2D energy currents or lays going through the land, or grid lines that are straight, but each one emits particular a dominant earth color. So if you imagine that you go to a particular place, you're being bathed in a particular earth color. It's a beautiful journey to understand the earth through her metaphysical body as much as her physical body.
It's amazing, isn't it? We're so disconnected with our tarmac and our pavements and our concrete and our little square boxes. I actually can't imagine, because I love being in the country and with nature and taking my shoes off and being healed. That's kind of all I do when I go into the country. I don't really want anything else. I don't ask for anything else, but I do want to heal myself because I'm very aware that I need healing. I mean, in terms of more deeper sort of esoteric healing, is there, and you're talking about colors, and you mentioned sound as well. I mean, how can people get more involved in that esoteric knowledge of inner activations or frequencies of sound and color? Is how do people do that? Because it is quite it's occulted, isn't it?
It's not so well known as just saying ley lines or earth currents, admittedly, but it is an aspect of it. And I was fortunate because my late father was taught by a top European master dowser who a team many decades and decades ago were looking into the colors of the earth. So I'm fortunate in that. It is a combination of different things and different disciplines like color and sound, because this is, if you people watch at a stone circle, just hang out at Woodhenge, for example, near Stonehenge, people walk automatically to the center of the stone circle because that's what they tend to do. And why not? You arrive at the center. But if you walk into a particular site in a particular way, and you move around the stone circle in a manner guided by the earth energies, you are then walking in the frequencies of the earth energies themselves. And that's what I discovered for the secret history of Stonehenge, that at Woodhenge, if you walk it in a particular manner, you're walking it in what's called the perfect fourth. It's a mathematical ratio. And don't let maths frighten you, because it frightened me at some point until a mathematician said it's music, like Kepler's music of the spheres. It's a wonder. And you just think of it as, it's maths. But it is the perfect fourth. And if you walk it in this beautiful spiral labyrinth, that's a perfect fourth as well. Because certain labyrinths, and the Hopi knew this, and the Navajo and the Cretans of Europe, for example, the ancient Greeks, if you draw something in a particular manner, it's going to be the perfect fourth or the perfect fifth. And so we're resonating to the exact sound frequency being emitted by the earth energies by walking it in a particular manner. And also, if you go to an ancient site, you can look to where the entrance is. It's not that difficult to find out. You could do a little bit of research but beforehand, for instance, on Google. And if you walk into the proper entrance, then you're going to be walking in harmony with the earth currents there, rather than crossing it in a particular manner. And then you're flowing with the energies of the site. And that's a really good thing, because it will allow you to become a little bit more attuned to place. You can get attuned to place by just whizzing to the center, and the sites will still resonate with you. But if you want a better resonance, a more natural resonance, and witness what maybe our ancient ancestors felt and saw and breathed at an ancient site, then do it their way.
Absolutely. It's interesting, isn't it? I kind of sometimes I put myself in an ancient environment and wonder what I would do and how I would behave. And if I had my little hut or wherever I was living, my little dwelling, and I went out on a particular day, what would I do with my day? And what could I do? And how could I explore these amazing technologies that were all around me? And it must have been absolutely magical to be in tune with those subtle energies on that nuanced level with nature, and also with these very gentle, because I would say most megalithic sites, and I am obviously a layman, but they feel very in tune with the earth. They're very in tune with the earth, and they're kind of focusing the energy in particular ways. So I just wonder what it would be like to be a person back in those times, and what they would do with their day, and would they play with the stones? Would they play with the energy? Would they go and walk amongst the stones in different ways? And what's your take on that? What would the human experience be?
I think the human experience would be the day that the earth energies are most powerful, and people in today's society think it's the new or the full moon. But in terms of the ancients, they knew, as recorded by Pliny the Elder for the Druids of this land, 6 days after new or full moon, that's when the Druids would gather mistletoe. That's when, for example, you'd pick what's called the adder's egg. So that that was very important to the ancient Druids, who inherited the wisdom of the Bronze Age, and the Bronze Age people inherited the wisdom of the Neolithic. So it's ancient wisdom. And that's when the earth energies are powerful, because of the geospiral spiral energy pattern that is found at the center of most stone circles changes its rotational spin 6 days after a new or full moon. So that's when it's at its most cleanest and pristine, for example. And it's a really wonderful thing. And then the stones are resonating to that, and the lands resonating to that. And Mother Earth is in harmony with Sister Moon as well. So it's a wonderful time to experience earth energies. And just these few little tips can guide us to being in the right place at the right time. Also, I think our ancient ancestors did a lot of things at night, because you have lunar alignments that I discovered at Avebury, for example, and elsewhere besides, and especially the first phase of Stonehenge, that was geared up to see the moon. Well, you're not going to see a full moon in the day, you're going to see that at night. And then at night, you will have a different experience. So I think there was the kind of masculine side in the day and the ultimate feminine side at the night as well. And when you see the moonlight shine on the stones and the sunlight, you start to realize there's different nuances going on. The female earth energies come a little bit more alive with the moon. The masculine earth energies become a little bit more potent with the sun at noon at the zenith, or midnight when the moon is at its zenith as well. And we'll be coming up in 2024 and 2025, especially 2025, to a huge lunar alignment that only happens every 18.61 years. And at Avebury, I discovered that the large stones of the cove stones are in alignment to the moon's most northerly moonrise. And that's the night of longest moonlight. We think of the summer solstice as being the longest day of daylight, so to speak, but the moon's 18.61 year gives that wonderful, the longest day of moonlight. It's called the night of the high moon. And I'll certainly be doing tours there and at other stone circles that are alignment with it. That's going to be the peak date. And I got an astronomer that calculated the Orion Belt, Egypt links, and he's helped me. And I've got some American astronomers helping me find the best dates in America. So some tours would tell you it's 2024, but the best time is going to be 2025 for the night of the high moon.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic, Maria. Maria, we've come to the end of our talk. It's 45 minutes and 45 days with 45 speakers. And what I'd like to do, because I always learn so much off you. You are a wisdom keeper for this land, and it's so, in my book, it's one of the most important things that we get back to the land. And you really are doing absolutely amazing work in that field. Would you come back after the celebration and talk to us again, and maybe share some more wisdom with us? Is that okay?
Oh, open arms and yes.
Yeah, fantastic, Maria. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for your time, and just remind us about your event, and just remind us about when your book's coming out.
My book is going to be out within the next month. Definitely, we're just waiting on the proof now. It's very exciting. And my event is Mysterious Universe, September the 16th at the Corn Exchange Devizes in Wiltshire. And we have a tour on the Sunday the 17th with Tom Bree and Juliet Bryant to Stanton Drew Stone Circles, the most feminine stone circle, and with Tom Bree at Wells Cathedral. And we're blessed with these beautiful their wisdom keepers as well, and I'm looking forward to being with them.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you so much for joining us, Maria, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you.
You take care.
Thank you.